Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. In this video, we're covering another iteration of anime vocabulary, and the episode and anime we are going to cover is the 18th episode of Haikyuu second season. So without further ado, the four vocabulary terms that we're going to cover in this lesson are number 1, hariau, to mean to compete with or to rival. Number 2, fuzai, to mean absence. Number 3, shoumou, to mean exhaustion or dissipation. And last but not least, number 4, gehin, to mean vulgar, indecent, or coarse. So now let's go into the actual lines that these words are used in the episode. And so again, we're going to start off with the word hariau, to mean to compete with, to rival. And so the line that uses this word is uttered by Kageyama in this episode, and he says the following: Oi, hariau to sunna yo.
Oi, hariau to sunna yo.
And so this is a pretty simple line. First up, we just have this utterance of oi, and this is just going to translate to basically hey. It's trying to get someone's attention, the person you're speaking to. Then we have the actual word in discussion here, hariau, to mean to compete with or to rival. Here it's being used in a basic grammar pattern, and that is just using the volitional form of a word followed by the phrasing to suru in whatever respective conjugation suru needs to be in to mean to try to do that verb. So here we have Kageyama saying hariau to sunna, and here sunna is going to be a very casual negative command form of the verb suru. So if suru means to do, this is going to mean don't do. And so we have hariau in its volitional form followed by to sunna, and as opposed to hariau to suru to mean to try to compete, this is gonna instead mean don't try to compete. And so altogether, once again, we have oi, hariau to sunna yo is going to mean hey, don't try to compete with him.
Oi, hariau to sunna yo.
For our next vocabulary term, we have the word fuzai, and this is going to translate to absence. And the line that it's being used in the actual episode, it's uttered by the coach of the opposing team. Not sure what his name is, but his words go as follows: Mashite, mukou wa shusho wa fuzai.
Mashite, mukou wa shusho wa fuzai.
And what this line is going to translate to is basically not to mention their captain's absence. So here we're starting the sentence with this kind of phrase mashite, and this is what is going to translate to not to mention. After that, we have the word mukou, and this is going to mean other side. Here it's meant to mean the other team. We have the particle wa marking that as the topic of the sentence. Then we have the word shushou, and this is going to mean captain basically. And then we have the particle wa again. And then we have our vocabulary term, which is fuzai, and that is going to translate to absence. So combine that all together, and what this would literally translate to is not to mention the other team's captain is absent. More naturally, we can just shorten that to not to mention their captain's absence. And once again in Japanese, that is Mashite, mukou wa shusho wa fuzai.
Mashite, mukou wa shusho wa fuzai.
For our next vocabulary term, we have shoumou, and this is going to translate to exhaustion or dissipation. In the actual episode, it's uttered by Daichi, and he is going to say, Omaera no hou ga fulu setto yatte shoumou shiten darou.
Omaera no hou ga fulu setto yatte shoumou shiten darou.
And what this line will translate to something along the lines of, you guys must be exhausted from playing a full set. So let's break down this sentence bit by bit. First up, we have the word omaera, and this is just going to be the second person pronoun omae, which means you basically, in its plural form by adding the character ra right after it. So omaera is going to be you guys. Then we have a noun of a noun modification going on here with the particle no right after omaera. So omaera no ho is going to be your guys' side. Side here isn't a word that should be interpreted literally here. Omaera no ho in Japanese has a certain nuance to it, but if we translate it into English, it's just naturally going to stay as you guys, which is the same as just saying omaera. Right after omaera no ho, we have the particle ga, and this is going to mark omaera no ho as the subject of the sentence pretty much. Then after that, we have the word furu setto, and this is going to translate to full set, as in a full set in a volleyball game. Full set here is going to be the direct object to the verb that's about to come right after, which is yaru, which means to do, or in this case more naturally that'll translate to play. And here it's going to be in its te form, yatte, because we're going to continue on the sentence, so this is acting as a connecting basically. Then we have our vocabulary term in discussion, and that is shoumou, and here it's being used as a verbal noun, so the verb suru is going to appear right after it. Suru is going to be in its te form, so shoumou shiten is going to translate to basically have become exhausted or have become tired. More naturally, we'll just translate that to are tired. So you guys are tired. Then we have the darou at the end of the sentence to basically make this into a probability. You guys are probably tired after playing a full set. More naturally, we can just turn that into you guys must be tired after playing a full set. So altogether, once again, we have Omaera no方がフルセットやって消耗してんだろう, and this is going to translate to you guys must be tired or you guys must be exhausted from playing a full set.
お前らの方がフルセットやって消耗してんだろ。
For our last vocabulary term, we have the word gehin, and this is going to translate to vulgar or indecent or coarse. It is said by Hinata in the episode when he is talking to Kageyama after Kageyama basically says the word that translates in English to shit. And in response to that, Hinata says, Unkoって言えよ, Kageyama-kun ogehin.
クソなんだろ。
うんこって言えよ、影山君お下品。
And what this line will translate to is, say poop, you're so vulgar, Kageyama. And here, Hinata is basically telling Kageyama to use the word poop instead of shit, which is much more vulgar and indecent than the word poop, which is more kids-oriented, I suppose. And so he's saying, say poop, you're so vulgar, Kageyama-kun. So let's break down the Japanese. First up, we have the word unko, and this is going to translate to poop, basically, the more soft version of the word kuso, which means shit. Right after unko, we have the small su and the te to turn that into a quote, basically. And then we have the verb ieyo in its command form, basically. So ieyo is going to be the command form of ieyo, basically. So Hinata is telling Kageyama to say unko instead of kuso. Then of course we have that yo at the end of the sentence just to be that nuance. Then in the next sentence right after that, it is just simply saying Kageyama-kun, that's referring to Kageyama, of course. Then we have ogehin, and this is going to be our vocabulary term, which means vulgar. So he's saying, Kageyama, you are vulgar. And so once again, that is going to read, Unko te ieyo, Kageyama-kun ogehin. And what this will translate to is, say poop, you're so vulgar, Kageyama.
クソなんだろ。
うんこって言えよ、影山君お下品。
And on that note, that covers the 4 vocabulary terms that we are covering for this episode of Haikyuu, second season, episode 18. And this has been, of course, another video of anime vocabulary. Stay tuned for the next iteration.